everyone doing? So we're gonna get straight to the lesson today. So stick around. I wanted to do a live stream on modes. So understanding modes part 1 is what I just posted on the Patreon. So you're welcome to get that as soon as I end the stream. I'm going to post this once I have the YouTube link. And anyway, this is going to be basically an introduction to modes, how to play them, how to practice them, how to find them, and then secondly, how to recognize them. Right? That's just as important as knowing which frets to play. So we can recognize them in 2 ways: the sound, or by ear. What kind of quality does this mode have? Is it major? Is it minor? Based on how it sounds, and then also the theory behind it. So each scale degree, and how if you can compare each mode to the major scale, and therefore know the music theory behind each mode. So you can recognize it with your mind in terms of how to think about it in terms of theory, and with your ear, right? And thirdly, you can recognize it with memorizing certain scales, which is not a bad thing. Although if it's the only thing you're doing, then you're missing out, right? So how's everyone doing today? Hopefully it's not too hot wherever you are. It's about mid-90s here Fahrenheit, and I think Celsius, that's, I don't know, it's probably 32 or so or higher. So it's kind of a heat wave, but I think tomorrow we have some cooler weather and lightning storms, so that should be fun. So what I'd like to do is, it's going to be less playing songs today and more sort of a music theory live stream. Probably won't go as long as normal, and like I said, there'll be some tab and explanation on the Patreon. Probably going to start doing that more with the $5 level a month. So if we start with the basics, which is always a good idea before you get complicated, we want to understand the major scale, because every mode every mode from the major scale can be compared to the major scale, if that makes sense. So if I have a major scale, say a C major scale, I have 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the 8th note is the octave, which is the 1 up an octave. Then you could just go from 1 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and back down. It's not the most exciting scale, I realize that, but it's pretty crucial in understanding music theory. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up if you're joining us, and say hello if you'd like. And all right, so let's walk through this. We have 7 notes, and so therefore we have 7 modes. So defining a mode in terms of the modern sense of a mode, you can look up modes on Wikipedia, and it's pretty interesting in terms of what the history is with Greek modes and other historical things with modes. But in the modern sense, a mode is starting a certain parent scale, in this case the major parent scale, from a different note, and then seeing how that scale lines up. So the first mode of the C major scale would be C major. C Ionian, which is C major. Ionian and major are the same thing in terms of the first major scale there is, which is the natural major. This is Ionian. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then, like I said, it repeats. Or you could think of it as well as this as 2 whole steps, C to D to E. That's 1, 2, 3, all major. Half step to 4, between 3 and 4. So whole half. Whole to the 5, whole step to the 6, whole step to the 7, half step to the 8. So we have whole half, whole half, whole half. Now whole half. And and the half steps are between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. All right, this is like day one music theory, right? This is like, may seem a little dry, but it's incredibly crucial to understand the anatomy of a major scale before you look at modes. So my private students, I would not just launch into modes unless they understood these basic tenets of a major scale, right? So you should too. Memorize them. They're important. Whole, half, whole, half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then, if you kind of feel comfortable with that, you would play it in all 5 shapes of the guitar, because the guitar happens to have 5 shapes. Cage just what we call it, but it's just the anatomy of a guitar. There's C, there's A, there's G, there's G, here's E, here's D. It's just the way that the fretboard unfolds. I'm going to do actually courses on and more Patreon stuff on the cage system, but what you need to know now is that any one of these 5 shapes will work for accessing all 7 modes. Just one shape is all that's necessary. Let's say I'm in C, and this is what I have on the Patreon stuff I'm going to post. I have a C major scale. All right. It keeps going if I need it to, which I will. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if I start on a different note, I would be on a different mode than the major scale. Okay? So let's go over all of them now. And you all are quiet today, which is fine. Say hello. Let me know any questions or comments at any time. I'm going to be kind of rambling on a little bit because music theory can be, a lot of preparatory work. So it won't be the most musically busy stream, meaning I won't be playing songs probably. But I will be looping some progressions and showing you how to practice. So it's entertaining, just in a different way, hopefully. All right, so we're going to define each of the 7 modes. Ionian is all right, should I use the whiteboard? I might as well, right? Ionian is going to be 1 through 7. So let me see if I can get this going. Ionian, because I feel like it would be nice if you could see it. And if we start on the 2nd note, it would be Dorian. And I'll get to that here in a sec. Okay, so now this may not work. Can you see that? All right, so let me just hold it up first and then I'll put it back. Of course you can't see that, it's so far away. So you've got the Ionian, which is the first mode of the major scale. And then you've got the Dorian, which is next. So, like I said, every mode will make alterations from Ionian. Ionian, notice it has no flats, no sharps. The Dorian, all of a sudden, has a flat 3. Any music theory, anybody who knows anything about music theory would know that a flat 3 means minor, automatically. Whether it's natural minor, Dorian minor, Phrygian is to be decided, but a flat 3 will tell us minor. Oh, okay, yeah, James is saying, hey James, start on the note A. Yeah, that will be the natural minor. I just wanted to say the first 2 modes. So if I start on D instead of C, I would be in the 2nd mode. James brings up a wonderful point, is that, and what I actually did on the Patreon sheet, which you can download when I'm done here, will be that I actually start with A, just like James mentioned on this tab here, because I'm making a point that we can make alterations from either the major or the minor. So let me show you this. First it's C major, 1 through 7, then it's A minor, and it's really small because it is, but the notes say there that notice that the minor has flat 3, flat 6, and flat 7. Okay, so that's something to consider. The major is 1 through 7 unaltered. The minor has flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. Now, if you just learn modes before knowing all that, the modes are going to be a little bit more mysterious, which is fine. But it's we might as well sort of understand what's happening with the alterations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A minor would be 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Right, and so James makes another point here, which is, thank you, James, for these wonderful reminders here. The Dorian, what makes the Dorian special, which is what I wrote here. Let me just read it out loud just to make sure I did it. Yeah, minor scale with a natural 6. That's how I think of the Dorian. So, let me show you what I mean. I have the C major scale. Now I'm going to start that same scale on the second note here. There's the second note of C major. Now I'll play the same notes, but I'll go up one more note. One more note. Now I'm at D again. And I've got a Dorian scale because it's the second note, and we call the second mode the Dorian. But what do I have in terms of the sound and the scale degrees? That's what I promised I would reveal to you, because you could look up on Wikipedia what are modes, and I wouldn't really be offering you all that much if I just told you the words. We need to recognize them in sound and in theory. So let's start with sound. Well, it's minor because it has a flat 3. So a minor chord will work over this mode. But we also have this note here, that's the natural 6. That is a hopeful note in a minor key. It's not natural minor. See, that's what makes it special. And so you find it in Latin styles of music, bossa nova, because it's a minor, but it's not like a pop music minor, right? It's not like a screeching, heart tearjerker. It's jazzy. It's also used in funk a lot, so it's used in funk and jazz. Maybe not so much pop, okay? But it's also used in rock a whole lot. Grateful Dead, right? You're gonna find Dorian all over Grateful Dead and jam band music because it's interesting. So once you learn a scale, first thing you should do is memorize it, of course, but also as soon as you can, improvise over it. You have a collection of notes. Get to know the sound. Do patterns. Sorry. I'm a little out of tune. Apologize for that. Alright, so there we go. That's Dorian. We have a natural 6. Let's kind of define these, and then I'll show you how to practice these. If I start on the third note, I have Phrygian. There's the sound. James says, I saw a Dead show in the olden days, and Jerry played So What by Miles Davis. Yeah, good. Wow, James, that's amazing, man, that you saw them. I saw the Grateful Dead with Jerry. My dad taught Phil Lesh's nephew, and Phil Lesh is was the bass player of Grateful Dead. And my dad taught his nephew, so we got backstage passes. And then when I was 9, I wasn't really old enough to appreciate what was happening, but I remember meeting Phil Lesh, and it was a great concert. So yeah, they played So What by da 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 da. Sorry. I should brush up on that, but it's a classic tune from Kind of Blue, which is one of the most famous jazz albums. So what? Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-da-da-da. And that's D Dorian, the whole song. Well, not the whole song, but I'm saying the whole time it's Dorian, then it moves up to E flat Dorian. So it's between D Dorian and E flat Dorian. And in jazz improv class, we had to play that song and improvise over it. So you can improvise over a mode, and if I put on a looper, I could say do D minor 7 to G7. 2, 3, 4. Let's turn that up a little bit. And now I have a loop that I can practice Dorian over. Only Dorian. Now I'm going all over the fretboard. You might want to start with one position. See? And you can go around to other positions. Only Dorian, D Dorian. There's the natural 6. See how it sticks out. So you can see how this is a fun, not only good for your music theory chops, but it's a fun exercise. I mean, as much as I've improved from learning songs and listening and learning songs, I've also improved from improvising. It's just a fact. Now that might be more because I'm a little more into jazz and bluegrass and psychedelic rock and progressive rock, where classic rock, where improvisation is everything, right? If I was more somebody who was a little more, say, classically, which I am classically trained as a doctor of music, but I'm saying if I was brought up in the music tradition of classical music, I may feel that improvising hasn't contributed as much. So whatever approach works for you, I recommend both, and practicing, a lot of these music theory things while improvising, if possible. All right. So that's Dorian. Phrygian would be the third note here. So we're going to go all the way to C major. Sorry, all the way from C major to the third note, all the way to the octave of that note, all in the key of C major. Does that make sense? That's how we get to the mode at first, by basically playing the notes that are inside of C major. Then we analyze it, and we notice that it has a flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. So that's going to be basically a natural minor scale. What are the 3 flat notes I mentioned? Flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. Memorize that. And the only thing different is it has a flat 2. So a great chord progression would be 1, flat 2, E minor to F major. Very Spanish. Phrygian has the stereotype, more or less, of being basically a Spanish mode. It's not really that true. It's not really that accurate to say that, but I understand it's easy to make these sort of generalizations, and it does show up in Spanish music quite often. So the flat 2 is something that you can find in Western modes. So if I play E minor, F major, I can practice Phrygian. Now it shows up actually in more American styles of music, and not just Spanish styles of music, as like going from 3 to 4 in the song in the key of C, say, where you've already played C, then you can go to E minor. Does that make sense? It doesn't need to be the only 2 chords. So you could have C, and then 3 chord to the 4 chord. That doesn't sound Spanish necessarily. So you would use a somewhat Spanish sounding scale, but it wouldn't be necessarily a Spanish song. Here's E Phrygian, but in the key of C it sounds right. This is less common. This is E minor as the 1 chord. All right, now, before I move on, I promised that I would talk about Nashville, and I just forgot the last 2 streams. And this is going to be part 1, so I'm not going to go super long today either. And we're not getting a ton of people watching, which is fine. So let's take a pause. We've covered Ionian, which is major, Dorian, which is the 2nd mode, it's minor with a natural 6, Phrygian, which is the 3rd mode, it's minor with a flat 2. So we'll cover the rest in a sec. So I went to Nashville and recorded with this band I play in, and I just wanted to talk about a little bit about what I learned there. Not too lengthy, but we recorded 5 songs in a studio with Mills Logan, who is the sound engineer for Toby Keith. We recorded in his home studio. It was incredible. The first day we went to Isle Studios. I forget the name of it, but it was I probably should look that up. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it was in Nashville. We did all the drums, the bass, right, the keyboards, which were Hammond organ and a grand piano, and acoustic guitar, believe it or not, all in the first day for all 5 songs. That was an incredible experience. Then the second day we did just vocals, lead vocals. So I was basically sitting at this control console with Mills, and it was such a enlightening experience to see him so quick with Pro Tools, and to also see how he worked with musicians. That's the gift of engineers and producers, is working with musicians to get the best take. The next day that was day 3, we did all background vocals for all 5 songs. I sang on 3 or 4 out of the 5, and again, amazing experience. The following day was lead guitar day, all electric guitar, and I kind of knew what to expect with the lead guitar work. I've been a lead guitarist in many albums, and playing solos is something that I take pride in. So and I feel confident in knowing how they work. So with rhythm guitar, it's always been a little more challenging for me to really nail the right tone, the right part, and a lot of times I end up playing lead style guitar when there's not a solo, meaning I'll play behind the singer as if it were a pianist or an organist who's not quite just strumming chords, right? You're offering some colors, and I just am a little naturally more of a lead player. So what I learned with rhythm guitar recording in Nashville is that it's all about the electric guitar. Seems obvious, but with rhythm, I kind of figured we have an acoustic guitar player in the band. I just figured that the acoustic guitar would be what was turned up in the mix as the rhythm. But if you listen to a lot of country songs, because this is a country band, we do red dirt country, which is like Texas country. If you listen to a lot of those recordings, you can barely even hear acoustic. And that's, has to do with the tonal quality of the electric is more effective for country, southern rock, country rock kind of sound. So it was my job to provide these really assertive, kind of thick rhythm parts, which I hadn't, honestly seen coming. I didn't see coming. So a lot of bar chords, a lot of power chords, a lot of heavy strumming, very consistent, very little gap between the sounds, Maybe a quick fill. Right, so it just reminded me the importance of strumming patterns, really strong rhythm, really confident sense of timing and rhythm, because that was like the chugging train in many instances of the song. So hit that thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and like I said, check the Patreon out. I wanted to make an announcement about the Patreon. It's not a great day to make announcements because it's a slow day on MT guitar. But I'm going to start making backing tracks. One thing I'd like to do this summer is to start producing and posting downloadable background tracks to practice these things over. So I've given you 3 chord progressions. Well, I've given you 2, but I meant to give you 3 by now. For C major, just practice like a 1-4-5, C, F, G, back to F. And you can practice your C major scale. For D Dorian, I mentioned D minor to G major, or D minor 7 to G7. For E Phrygian, I mentioned E minor to F major. So, you know, I'd like to make a couple backing tracks for people on there at the $5 level and up. Thanks, James. Yeah, you know, I've like I said, it's been a great learning tool to use loopers. I don't practice as much as I should or used to. I used to practice several hours a day, but now I teach and perform most of the time. So that's in a way a practice as well. But I don't sit down with the looper as much, and man, I really improved from the looper. So I'm not sponsored by any looper, but I'm just saying in general they're all great. Let's go on. Yeah. So the 4th mode will be F Lydian. F Lydian has a sharp 4. So if I start on the 4th note of C major, 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's a major scale with a sharp 4. So we see it in film music and jazz because it has a almost otherworldly quality, slightly hopeful. Yeah, James has a good question. Yeah, I'm going to. I put part 1 so far, and then I'll add part 2 in this stream. So part 1 and well, I don't even know why I'm calling it part 1 and part 2. I'll just add the chords to this. I wasn't sure exactly the chord progression until I started the stream. So yeah, I'll put the chords up. Good question. So if I have F Lydian, I have a sharp 4, which gives it, we want to recognize it by ear, it gives it a hopeful quality. Very major, very bright. You know, and it's the 4 chord a lot of times in songs. Be a little more jazzy, but that would work as a 4 chord in Roman numerals. So the modes line up with Roman numerals as well. So I would practice, and it's really fun. Let's do F major to G major. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is 2, 2, 3. Here we go. Loop to G major. Back to loop. Now I can practice F Lydian. Believe it or not, this is all F Lydian. Okay, I cheated there. I played an extra note. Believe it or not, those are all in F Lydian. You can play chords in a mode. Sorry. All right. Let's get some thumbs ups going. We only got 2. It's okay. So that's the 4th mode. And then the 5th mode would be Mixolydian. There's the fifth note of the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, and then 1. So, what does the mixed Lydian have in difference, in contrast, I should say, to the major scale? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. It's a major scale with a flat 7. I was initially going to do the whole stream on mixed Lydian, but I realized, might as well just do the whole modes. And of course, I knew this would happen. I'm basically explaining maybe perhaps too much and not being thorough enough, which is just how it goes. Normally, we would easily be able to spend 30 minutes or more on one single mode. And so some of these streams I tend to cover a lot in the hopes that we can do several parts with the tabs and the Patreons and other lessons. So understand that we're not going to get through these things in a very thorough manner for this live stream, but we will with the Patreon and other videos. So mixed Lydian has a flat 7. How does it sound? Well, here's how it sounds. It's the blues chord, G7. We don't think of the blues scale as mixed Lydian. However, mixed Lydian works great over the blues. We think of the blues scale as combining major and minor with pentatonic notes and other notes. But really, mixed Lydian works great over every chord of the blues. So if I play a G blues, I'd have G7, G mixed Lydian. C7, I can do C mixed Lydian. D7, I can do D mixed Lydian. Hi, all right, thanks very much, Andrucho. Just passing to say that we are great. Come to Guadalajara. All right, I've never been to Guadalajara. I've been to Guanajuato, San Miguel de Allende, and Puerto de Vallarta, and Ensenada. And I enjoyed it. Hey, Ben. So, point is, we can practice mixed Lydian with blues chords. You might want to try that, because it's going to be different than your minor and major pentatonic blues scales. So, check it out. Just do a fast shuffle. Here's a G7. Here's a C7. G7, D7, C7, G7, D7. I can practice G mixed Lydian, C mixed Lydian, G mixed Lydian. Sounds bluesy. That was all C mixed Lydian, G mixed Lydian. Those are G mixed Lydian notes. So it's a little more bluesy than you would expect. I threw in a chromatic note, that's alright. Jazzy. Sounds a little vanilla after a while if you're not clever with it. Alright, now let's stick to one shape. G makes a Lydian up there. C makes a Lydian. G. D mixed Lydian. C mixed Lydian. G mixed Lydian. Okay? Now I'm going to show up for a while. Finally, some minor at the end. Okay, mixed Lydian, very important scale. Hugely important in bluegrass, jam band music, rock, jazz, every style, even pop. Mixed Lydian, the second most important mode, second most important major mode. You've got major and minor, then you've got mixed Lydian. Then Dorian, if you had to rank them. Sixth mode is Aeolian. We talked about that already earlier in the stream. That would be natural minor, sixth mode. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Not even going to jam around with that because you already know it. Well, I mean, you don't know, I'm just saying. You need to basically memorize that to compare the modes to. It's Aeolian mode, but most people don't even think of it as Aeolian. It's just A minor. It's just a minor scale. Dorian is where we change the 6 to make it natural 6. The final mode is sometimes, when they say save the best for last, this is not the case. Locrian. Locrian, of course, it's subjective to say whether a scale is good or bad, but Locrian is just not used. It's just not common. So Locrian is flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7. What makes it challenging to use is that it has a flat 5, and that means it's diminished. That's why when you would see a Roman numeral chart, you'd see the 7 as diminished. Flat 5 means it's not very usable. It's not very stable. Doesn't sound like we can use it in a functional sense. Now it doesn't mean it's not used. I've written songs with diminished chords. It's a great chord, but it's just not as common. So you could practice Locrian, but it's probably not worth starting with. So, like I said, not much performing today, just a lesson. So we'll probably sign off here in a bit. Ben is asking, is there a best way to practice scales? Okay. So you have a common issue, Ben, totally normal. And what Ben is having an issue with is just how to practice scales. I mean, I teach private students, and I guide them through a process. It's not going to be easy to answer quickly, but the way to practice scales is to figure out how, first off, what chords work under them. So if it's a major scale, some type of major chord, and to understand, so you can make backing tracks. You can practice along to a progression, and also how to improvise. All right, how to understand chord tones, how to understand arpeggios. So if I can give you something right now, if I have a D Dorian scale, first thing I told you is know that it works over a D minor or D minor 7. It also works over G7 really well. Doesn't really work if I go G minor. See, so that's why you gotta know the right chords that work with Dorian. It's called a 2-5 progression. So I do that. Then I would know that Dorian, theory-wise, has a natural 6. Then I would learn some patterns. Up 3, down 3. Then I would maybe skip one. I would slide around, I would hammer on, pull off, I would bend. Make the scales your own, break the rules. Some things are ugly, B minor. Yeah, that's right, James. There was I think Samurai Guitarist on YouTube did a funny video where he said, how do you make, no, it wasn't him, he just participated in it, but someone did it, maybe it was Adam Neely. How do you make the Locrian scale beautiful? Or how do you, give me a Locrian composition? And some people went with trying to make it sound beautiful. Some people just embraced the diminished quality of it. So some of these streams, I feel like I'm like I said, just throwing you a bunch of stuff. And if I were to practice it right away, I would go to my Patreon and get the modes, right? And then after that, I'm going to post the chord progressions to practice that over. And as you're improvising, create patterns, skip notes, but also think, okay, what are the scale degrees when I'm playing? If I give you some homework. And you don't need this to do that. You can just simply learn the scale and then count 1 to 7. And then you would basically know, okay, I'm playing, Dorian, so I have a flat 3 and a flat 7, but it's got a major 6, and just notice that. And then mess around with that sound. Maybe make some chords out of it. Same thing with, say, like a mixed Lydian. If I had G mixed Lydian, I would mess around with some G7 sounds as some chords, and then I would mess around with the scale, maybe hearing that chord in my head even. See how the mixed Lydian sounds. You don't even need to be playing with backing tracks, you could just noodle. I'm a big fan of noodling, as long as you know what you're doing. Okay, so I think that's probably good enough for today. And good to see you all. So let's see here. Yeah, 40 minutes. So remember to hit that thumbs up. And more channels to come. I was traveling for the last week and I'm back now, so it's good to be back. And good to see you all. Thanks James, thanks Ben, thanks everybody else for watching and supporting us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Got some cool videos and things in the pipeline. So we'll see you next lesson. Bye.